Hello and welcome back to My Own Worst Enemy. It has been a busy summer, but we are finally getting back to Conquest and Consequence. This will be turn number 2. But before we begin turn number 2, let's do some clarifications, corrections for turn number 1. And one of the first things that I want to correct is we had the British ally with the USA, and I should have flipped one of these over to show that they are now allies. So I'm going to do that. The British are now allies with the USA faction. And I think over here we need to flip this British Empire neutral marker to show the alliance. So we'll put that over here. And now that I've done that, I'm going to do something I should have done when they became allies. In fact, I should have done this for all of the neutral territories that became protectorates of these other empires. So what happens is now that the British are the allies, the US faction gets the resources and pop that the British own. So what that would mean is over here, it's 6 resources and 6 population that the British have. So that's going to get added into the USA faction. So the population is going to go up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually going to take it up to 17 where this USA total is. And then the same thing for resources, that's going to go up by 6. So that's going to come up here to 16. And I should have done that. Whenever you play this game, as soon as you have a change like that, update the markers on the track so you don't forget. I'm notorious for doing that. I don't know why it's so hard to remember for me to make that adjustment, but I do. So while we're doing that, same thing happened. So for Tsingtao up here, this became actually a protectorate of Japan. They should have received 2 resources and a city would get 1 population. So the Japanese marker should have increased. So population would have gone up by 1, which would have moved it up to here. And then the resource marker would have moved it up by 2. So it would have gone up to 7. And then for, who else was it? Well, so we had Tsingtao became a protectorate of nationalist China. So they actually would have, that's a city, so that would have increased their population by 1. So the city pop would have come up by 1. I believe that also increases the USA population by 1. So I think that would go to 18. This is where the Chinese part of this game, the Civil War in China gets a little difficult in that there's a lot of rules going on here. So I'm pretty sure that when you increase the city number for nationalist China, you do the same thing for the US, so the population. It actually says, if you look where it says the population, it's US plus nat, so I'm pretty sure that's right. So that would go up by 1. They do have 1 resource there, so I think the resources for the USA would also increase by 1. I don't think, though, this loyalty would change for that. I think that stays the same. I'm not 100% certain. If you know for sure, let me know down below. And then we had another one, let's see, in Vietnam here. The US has now 2 influence markers in there. So the 1, that's a city, so no population increase, but they would still get a resource increase from the resource that's in Vietnam. Actually, I take that back. There's Saigon down here, which would give them a 1 population increase. So that's how it should look, I believe. And again, if I made a mistake, let me know down below. There's some of these rules, you know, it takes a while to learn them, but once you do, it's not a big deal. But in learning this game, there's a lot going on, so you have to be really careful. And then finally, because I think I've caught all the mistakes, this one's kind of funny. If you go back and watch this towards the end of the first turn, I put this SNLF force into Formosa. And as I'm putting it in, I'm explaining how you can only have 1 SNLF force in an island area. The whole time there's another SNL force down there underneath it, which I previously had looked at, but then I guess I forgot. So really, I can't have 2 SNLF forces in Formosa. So I'm just going to say this one instead would have gone into Saipan over here. So we'll just show that there. So I believe that brings me up to date with all the corrections I wanted to make. So now I think we are ready to jump into turn number 2. So the first thing we'll do is advance this year marker. It is now 1937. Victory check. No need to do that because we're just starting. We've advanced the year marker. New Year's resolutions. There are none for turn number 2. Reshuffle the decks. I've already done that off camera. So there's the action deck and the industry deck. They have been reshuffled. And peace dividends. Let's hand those out. So I've got all the peace dividends in this cup. We'll shake it up and I will pull. Let's just pull for the US first. They get, what do they get? They get a 1, so that's their total now is 2. We'll grab one for the Japanese. They pull a 0. And then finally the Soviets, who already have 0, they pull another 0. So zeros and zeros for the Soviets. And now we will determine the turn order. So I'm going to grab the dice tower, which is sitting over here. I'm going to grab a D6. And if you'll remember, you're going to look at the arrows at the end of each of these tracks for the powers, and that'll show you who goes first and which way the round will proceed. So let's go ahead and roll the D6. We roll a 2, and 2 is, I think, over here, the Japanese. So the Japanese will go first, and the turn will progress clockwise. So the US would go second. We'll get the dice tower out of the way. We will begin production with the Japanese. So ignoring resource because everyone's still at peace. It's the lowest of population industry, which is sitting at 11. So I'm going to get this counter and we're going to mark off 11 production points for the Japanese. Remember that that is to buy cards or build new units or increase the value, the CV value of a current unit that's on the board. So what do the Japanese want to do? I'm going to spend one of these production points and increase the value of this infantry to 2. Now I am going to mark that with a red cube to show that I've already increased that, so I don't do it again. I'm going to also increase this infantry up to a 2. Again, we'll mark him to show that he's at a 2. This will take us down to 9. I think I will increase this armor to 2. A lot of increasing going on up in Manchuria. I wonder what the Japanese have planned. It's going to take us down to 8. And then I think they would like to increase this fleet to a 2. That's going to take us down to 7. Probably should mark that as well. So 7 left. The 4 show that we spent, there were 11 starting. So I think now we're going to buy some cards. Let me think about this for a second. I think they're going to get 4 action cards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3 investment cards. 1, 2, and 3. That'll take us down to 0. And we'll put that in the Japanese hand. And that will end production for the Japanese. So play proceeds now to the USA. So we will now start production. We start with proxy production first. So lesser of KMT, loyalty, or cities. It's KMT, so it's only going to be 1. So we get to either add a new unit or increase the value of a unit. I think we're going to increase this fort up to a 2 in Nanking. So that would be production for the nationals, proxy production for the US. Now they start their regular production. So looking at the lowest of population or industry, because they are at peace, it's going to be industry, which is at 6. So let's go ahead and find my marker, put a 6 on it. So they get 6 production points. So I'm going to spend one of those to buy a new cadre. I'm going to buy an armor unit and put it up. Well, let's see, where can I put this? Let's just put it up here in Seattle. And I'll mark it with, well, let's go ahead and get these red markers off. I forgot to do that. Japanese. And we'll put a red marker on that armor unit because we just built it. So we're down to 5. What else do we want to do? I'm going to get, let's say 3 action cards. 1, 2, 3. That'll take us down to 2. What is under here? Fortress, which is already built up to maximum. I think I'm just going to get 2 technology cards. 1, 2. So that'll take us down to 0. And that'll end production for the US. So we will take now the turn marker will go to the Soviets. So they get to do production. So we'll start with proxy production. It's the lesser of these 2. So 2, which means they will get, I think it's 2 cards. So they'll get 2 action cards. We'll take those 2, add them to their hand, and inspect those until production is complete. And so that ends proxy production. Now they go into regular production. And they currently sit at, looks like 4 is the lowest of population and industry. So we'll show a 4 on the counter. All right, so we'll start Soviet production first. Let me get this red marker off. And also one thing I forgot to do is move the phase season marker up to the production phase. We should have done that. Let's do that. And now let's see, what do the Soviets want to do? I think they're just going to get 2 action and 2 industry cards. So 1, 2, those, 2 of those. And that's going to end their production. So that takes us out of the production phase and into the government phase. So starting with the Japanese and their fistful of cards. I can grab all their cards and not knock the board all over the place. Let's see what they want to do. And we'll move the turn marker over here to show it is their turn. I think they're going to play this wild card here, Brothers in Arms. So Japan, Inner Mongolia, Thailand, or Peiping, and I believe Peiping is right here. So that will give them an influence marker. Another influence marker goes into Peiping, which will make that a satellite of the Japanese. We'll discard this. I'll just put the discards for the action deck down here for now. So that's going to flip this to a satellite now of Japan. Remember, that's when you play the wild cards, that's instant. Just move that marker out of the way for now. So that was the Japanese card play. Put that there for now. And now we're going to go to the US, see what they might want to do. I think they're going to play this Tsingtao card for diplomacy. So that's going to be their turn. We'll now go to the Soviets. Let's see what they want to do. I think they're going to counter the US card there with their own Tsingtao card. So that's their play. Now we go back to the Japanese. And now that we're back to the Japanese, I'll mention, so this flipped to a satellite, but I did not change anything on the track because they were already getting the resources and the population from that. So that's why I did not adjust that. The Japanese are going to acquire technology. They're going to acquire air defense radar. So it says 2A3. What that is it will give them double the firepower in friendly territories, home territories only. So I'm going to put this up here to show they now have air defense radar. We'll discard the other. Actually, no, well, yeah, we'll discard the other card. That's the Japanese. Now we'll go back to the US after I put the Japanese cards back over here. And they're going to play the Dutch East Indies card. And now that I'm looking at it, they've already got 2 influence markers in there. So I should have actually increased. This should be up 2 more. So that should be 20. The city's a 1. So these really should be 20 and 20. Like I said, I keep forgetting to adjust those. I didn't even notice that down there. So I believe that's correct for the US side now. That will be their play, their card they played. And we'll go back to the Soviets and see what they want to play. And they are going to play a Vietnam card. Try to get rid of some of that US influence in Vietnam. Back to the Japanese player. And I think they're going to play another Birds of a Feather card. They can put influence into Senshi, Inner Mongolia, or Tsingtao. But what that's going to do, they're going to play it for Tsingtao, and that's going to remove one of these influence markers. So that's going to remove one of these nationalist China markers. And so now this is no longer a protectorate of the US. Well, it's no longer a protectorate. It's now a whatever that first level is, I can't remember. But basically, so there's 1 resource and 1 pop that we're going to have to deduct from the US. So we'll do that. Knock those back down. And that was the Japanese card play. And now we're going to go back to the US and see what they want to do. They're going to play a Mongolia card. Now back to the Soviets. They're going to play a Birds of a Feather card, and they're going to put it in Mongolia. We'll discard that. I'll grab a Soviet influence marker and put that into, I grabbed the right one, because there's Soviets and there's Communist Chinese, so that's going to go into Mongolia. That goes in instantly. So again, now we have their protectorate of Mongolia. The only thing in there is a level 1 town, so they'll get no population increase for that, so nothing to adjust. That was the Soviet card play. Now we're going to go back to the Japanese. And the Japanese are going to blackmail the US. So it says, still any rival diplomacy card in play and play it for yourself or discard. We're going to discard that because that's what they're playing. But they're going to steal the Dutch East Indies card. And they're going to play that for themselves. That's going to be it for the Japanese. Back to the US. The US is getting low on cards. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And only only three action cards. So I think they're going to pass here. That's a pass for the US. We'll go to the Soviets. The Soviets are going to play a Ties That Bind card. So that's going to get them another influence marker into Mongolia. So that will flip Mongolia into a Soviet satellite. And again, there's a town in there, so no population increase. But I believe what that does, I think that adds a unit. Let me see. Put these cards down first. This is not in China, so I believe they get to play, since it's a town, a muster value is 1. We get to place a 1 CV value unit there. So I'm just going to grab, let's see what we got over here. Let's grab an armored unit and put it in Mongolia. And back to the Japanese. And I believe the Japanese are going to pass here. So that's going to take us now back to the US is going to pass again. The Soviets, they are going to play this Tsingtao card to place a partisan. So that means we discard this card. I will grab a Soviet partisan unit, if I can find one. Where did I put the partisans? I think they're on the other side of the board here. That will place a partisan unit in Tsingtao. That was the Soviets. Back to the Japanese, who will pass. US will pass again. Back to the Soviets. They want to play an Inner Mongolia card for the diplomacy. So they're going to do that. Back to the Japanese, who will pass. Back to the United States, who will pass. Back to the Soviets. What do they want to do? They're going to play another Inner Mongolia card. Back to the Japanese, who will pass. Back to the US, who will pass. Back to the Soviets, who will finally pass. So that's going to end the government phase, or at least the end of card play in the government phase, I should say, because now we have to resolve diplomacy. So we'll start up here with the Japanese. There's one Dutch East Indies card out. Nobody else has one. So what that will do is remove an influence marker from the Dutch East Indies for the US. So what that does, again, 2 resources and 1 pop. So 2 resources. This will go down to 17, and then the pop 1 will go down to 18. So that's the Dutch East Indies card for the Japanese. And then now let's just go to the US. So there's a Mongolia card. And the Soviets have nothing to counter that. So Mongolia, right, was Mongolia a satellite already? Yeah, so actually, never mind. That became a satellite during card play. So this just gets discarded, no effect. Tsingtao. There is a card to cancel that from the Soviet hand, so those will cancel each other out. No effect there. And finally, we're just left with the Soviet card. So let's start with the Vietnam card. That will remove a US influence marker from Vietnam. And then 2 Inner Mongolia influence markers will go into Inner Mongolia. It's a level, or it's a town, so there's no population change there for the Soviets. Okay, so that will remove these 2 cards, and I'm knocking the counters around over here. So now we have resolved diplomacy. Now the next thing we do is check hand size compliance. We'll start with the Soviets. They can have 6 in their hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're fine. The Japanese can hold 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh no, so they got to discard one of these. So they're just going to discard. They've got to discard this Kansu card. So they got to discard that. Now they're in compliance. And then the US can have 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, they're fine. That's going to end the government phase and take us into the spring phase. And so in the spring phase, the Japanese player gets to decide first if they want to do anything. Let's see. And they are going to pass in the spring phase. And now the Americans will play a card here in the spring phase. And to the Soviets, I think the Soviets are going to play a card here. So we had a pass from the Japanese. We will come down to now revealing these cards. So we'll do the US first. Has a spring M4. The Soviets, I can get this card off the board. They have a D5. So the Soviets with the D will get to go first. And so what are they going to do? They're going to move some units, I'm sure. They're going to move, this infantry is going to move down into Mongolia. So let's get this out so we can count. So that's going to take us from 5 to 4. They are going to move this infantry forward 1, 2. Now we're down to 3. They'll move this infantry forward. Let's see, can they do that? That is a mountain. So yeah, they're just going to move this one forward 1. Now they're down to 2, and they're going to move. Forest is 1. River is 1. Armor can move. Tank can move 3. So they're going to move this 1, 2 into here. And that's going to leave them 1. And with the 1, they'll convert this partisan to a militia. Let's do that. And that would put a size 1 militia there. So that will be the Soviet card play. And I keep knocking these off the board. So that's we'll discard that. Now the Americans, the US gets to take a move here. 4 units. Let's get that counter back out so they can move 4. They're going to move this aircraft. This will be strategic move, so they can go 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 1 move. I think we're going to move. That's right. Fortress in there. Those are Marines. We're going to move. This infantry is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll move this infantry. So that was 2. And then we're going to move this infantry. It's just going to come over here to LA. So that's all the movement that the US will take. And that will end the spring phase. Now we're going to summertime. Checking supply again. There's no issues with supply that I can see. So now we will go back now and see, to the Japanese, do they want to play a summer card? The Japanese will play a summer card. And where'd the little turn marker thing go? So now we go back to the US. Do they want to play a summer card? No, they're going to pass. And then to the Soviets, do they want to play a summer card? They do not, so they will pass. So the Japanese are the only ones going in the summertime. And they get 6 movement. 6 moves. Okay, so with their 6 movement actions, they are going to declare a violation of a proxy, or not a proxy power, a violation of neutrality on Canton. And we're going to move this SNLF Marine is going to move into Canton. Now, this being a Marine unit, I do not have to stop there and show that it's invading. It can actually participate in combat this round, this turn. And so Canton is a city, a muster value of 2, so it's going to get a fortress will appear, level 2, size 2. This also means, this being a neutral inside of China, that the Soviets and the US will each get 1 action card added to their hand, so we'll do that. We'll just put those off to the side because I don't know if they can use them this turn or not. I think they can, though. I don't think it matters. So I'm going to show that as being 1 movement point that they've used. And we will have a battle there. They're also going to bring down this fleet. So 1, 2. Will take us down to 4. And let's see what else we got under here. Infantry everywhere, infantry everywhere. I'm going to move, this infantry unit is going to move forward into Peiping. So that's 1. This infantry unit is going to move here. 1, 2. He's also going to move into Peiping. So that's 2. This infantry, let's see. Yeah, let's bring this infantry unit forward. So 1, 2. Also into Peiping. And then I'm going to bring this infantry unit. It's going to come across 1, 2. And I'm going to bring out this fighter. It's going to come down to here. I think that's all the moves for the Japanese. So that means we'll have to now resolve the combat in Canton. So let's do that. I'm going to grab a battle marker. We will remove those units off board. I've got a battle board set up. So I'll move us over there and we will conduct this battle. So let's go ahead and switch over to that battle board now so we can see it. All right, so the defenders here have a fortress. So I'm going to place that up at the fortress block. There is a marine unit, infantry ground unit for the Japanese. There was one of those. Now there was also a fleet of size 2. And this battle board is laid out the same way that the unit chart is. It's in order of how fire is conducted. So the fortress gets to fire first. It's got to fire the ground unit. So it gets to roll 2 dice and it's looking for a 1, 2, 3, or 4 to hit. So the fortress fires at the invading Japanese Marines. And that looks like 2 hits. So that's going to eliminate the SNLF. So we'll pull that off. And that's going to leave the fleet. So the fleet gets to fire. So the fleet is firing at a ground unit. It's got to get a 1 to hit. So I'm going to use these Japanese dice that I bought. And we will fire 2 dice trying to hit that fortress. And so I think a 1 is the Japanese flag. Yeah, so that's a 1. So that is a hit. They will actually damage the fortress. And so that will end the combat round. So let's go ahead and move the units back out onto the map. Let's switch back over to the main map. So I'm going to bring that fortress back over. It's now a size 1. And the fleet is there. Now let's see if that fleet can stay there. So they have no supporting ground units there, so they're going to have to retreat. So I'm just going to retreat them back into Formosa. Show them like that. So not a very good play there for the Japanese. Worth the risk, though. They managed to knock the fort down to 1, so maybe they can follow up with another attack. They're trying to grab as many resources as they can get. It's 1937, so that's why they're doing this. But that did not work out, so that is the end of the summer phase. So we'll now go to the fall phase. Again, we'll check for blockade. No blockades to worry about. We'll go to the fall. Starting with the Japanese, do they want to take an action now in the fall? And the Japanese do want to play a fall card, so we'll put that out to the US and their allies. They're going to pass. Back over here now to the Soviets. Let's see what they want to do. They are going to pass. In the fall, this Japanese can move 6 again, so let's grab our counter. Move 6 units. They're going to move. They're going to declare another violation of neutrality here in Tsingtao. So they're going to bring this strength 3 infantry across the border and one of these strength 2 infantries across the border. So again, first things first, we move 2 units. This is a violation again of a neutral in this case. So again, the Soviets will get to draw a card, an action card. The Americans will get to draw an action card in reaction. And I'm going to say that this infantry is going to attack this partisan unit. That'll be a separate battle. I'm going to bring another move. I'm going to bring this fighter is going to come across to join this battle. This would create in Tsingtao. So what was this? Trying to see what I did with the city up there. It is a city. So the muster value is 2. So a size 2 fortress will appear in there. And I believe that is it. So we'll have another battle. So let's move. What did I do with my battle marker? Let's move these units over to the. We'll start with the actual. Let's see. Does it matter if we start with the partisan or if we start with the? I don't think it matters. So let's start with the actual invasion here. I'm going to move these units to the battle board. Let's put this down to show right now what's going on. There's a battle there, size 2 fort. Let's go ahead and switch over now to the battle board. All right, so the size 2 fort defender is there. There were infantry units, 2 Japanese infantry, and an air force of 1. Size 1. And so again, the fortress gets to fire first. There's no technologies at play here, so I'm going to grab a 2d6 again and looking for a 1 through 4 to hit. That's 2 hits, so we're going to take 1 off of this unit, so that's 1. And we'll just take 1 off of this one, so that's 2. So they managed to damage them there. That was not a bad attack at all for the miners there anyway. So now I'll grab some Japanese dice. We'll attack. So starting with the Air Force. The Air Force is attacking a ground unit, so it's looking for a 1. So we'll roll a Japanese d6. And they get a 2. That's not going to do it. The infantry gets to fire, so they get to fire 3d6, and they are looking for a 1, 2, or 3. 1, 2, or 3. Oh, wow. Complete miss. So nothing there against the fortress. Japanese aren't doing too good. So we will bring those units back out. Actually, well, let's see. Let me flip back to the big board. Okay, so I should have removed this influence marker, so let's do that. So in Tsingtao, we now have a fort. And we still have these 2 infantry units. And we still have the fighter there. So we have ground units here. This does not have to rebase. We could choose to do it voluntarily. I think I'm just going to leave it there. I don't know why I wouldn't. So, and now I said that this infantry is going to attack this partisan unit. I won't switch to the battle board since it's just the 2 units. And this is our first partisan combat here. So the Japanese are attacking the partisan unit. The Soviets do not have guerrilla warfare, so the partisan can't really attack back. However, let's see, this partisan I think is in, yeah, Tsingtao. This one's the one in Peiping. So, however, if we roll a 6, another partisan will be created. So the Japanese are going to fire 2d6. Let me move the dice tower in here just so that we can see this roll. So they're firing at, you fire at ground units using the G indicator there. So infantry is firing at a G, so G3, they got to get a 1, 2, or 3 to hit, destroying the partisan on a hit. So we're going to roll 2 dice. And there's a 3, so they do destroy this partisan. So we'll put that back over into the partisan chit mix. I'm going to move the dice tower off the board. And I believe that ends all of the Japanese combat. So we'll get this off. This card is now done. So that's going to take us now into the winter phase. The Soviets can play a card here if they wish. They don't wish to do that. Now, the Japanese and the Americans could also spend a card to do strategic movement in the winter phase. The Japanese are not going to do that. And the Americans are also not going to do that. So what that means is that'll take us back to another turn. That'll be in 1937. So as we end 1937, the Japanese have managed to push into China, the northern part of China. They've acquired Peiping. They're trying to take Tsingtao. There's still a partisan in there. There's still a fortress in there. So they're working on taking that. They've kind of screwed up by not taking it. I think they really need to grab resources. So they're trying to do that. They attacked Canton. They failed there. They left a size 1 fortress there. And they really need to follow up that attack as soon as they can. So the very anemic start for the Japanese, not good at all. So that's it. I will end it here. I'm going to try to do these turns faster. As for me anyway, summer is kind of I'm not as busy right now as I was at the beginning of summer. So hopefully I have more time to get some more turns. And what I might do, I like to play these turns out and then leave some time for comments below to appear in case I've done something wrong. What I may have to do, I may have to start playing turns back to back and just post them as I can. If I do that, it's going to mean that if I do make a mistake, I can't really correct for it if I've already recorded the session. So that's the only downside to that. However, it will mean a faster game, and maybe that's the way I should do it anyway, so I can get more games up on the channel here. But we'll see. So there we go. If you enjoyed this video, this session, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps with the YouTube algorithms. Subscribe to the channel if you have not. That always helps. Leave a comment down below. Believe it or not, the comments are what are really valuable to these videos. The thumbs up, that helps a lot. Becoming a subscriber helps a lot. But leaving a comment, that really helps get attention to the videos. So leave a comment if you haven't. And nothing else, just to say thanks for doing this. That would be appreciated. As always, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you back here next time.